Hello from Helsinki, Finland. My name is Tim Becker, and I will provide you a webinar today on the EU Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation and the Digital Product Passport. So welcome, thank you for joining. People are still coming in. We are about 100 at the moment. Okay, well, I will turn off the video and start my presentation in a bit. So about myself, a few words. Some of you may know me already. I have been with Reach Law as a senior legal advisor for a long time already, more than 15 years. Providing advice, consultancy in relation to REACH and related EU legislation, such as also Waste Framework Directive, SCIP, and in the present context, of course, ESPR. And over the years, I have been supporting many different clients on different levels of the supply chain, and also sector associations and governmental agencies, such as the European Space Agency or European Defence Agency. Okay, so as usual for Reach Law webinars, let's make the webinar interactive. So if you have questions which you may want to answer from me, then please use the chat function here in the webinar tool. And I'll screen the questions after my presentation and then see what I can answer at the end of my presentation. We have also received many questions from your side prior to the webinar, which I have tried to take aboard for the presentation as far as possible. And yeah, as said, we also have the Q&A at the end. And if you believe that your questions are not sufficiently answered here, then please let us, and particularly me, know. And also to note that a recording of this webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel called Reach Law Talks. So, and in any case, we are looking forward to any feedback you may have. Thanks already in advance. So we have about 1 hour time to go through this agenda, which will start with some words about our company, what we are doing. Then I will reflect a little bit on ESPR in general, then continue with Ecodesign requirements. What are they? What could be put in place in the near future? Next topic will then deal with substances of concern. Of course, a big area is a digital product passport. Where are we in terms of developing this new tool? Then we have a section on duty holders and enforcement. Point 7 will deal with the status of the European Commission preparatory work for priority products and digital product passport. And then towards the end, I'll provide a brief outlook on the next steps and timelines and how industries can prepare. And then hopefully we have like 10 to 15 minutes time for specific questions and answers. This is our usual disclaimer and copyright notice for this webinar and the presentation. So please take due note of that also when viewing the recording afterwards. Okay, so about Reach Law in brief, we are a consulting company headquartered in Helsinki, Finland, so not far here from the European Chemicals Agency. We were established in 2006, and today we have subsidiaries in 6 countries overall, which you will see on the next slide. Despite our name, we are not a law firm, but we are a multidisciplinary team with also lawyers just like me, but then also many other specialists, chemists, environmental specialists, economists, and so on. We are able to provide support in many different languages, including important European languages. And our services, they basically address in general the market access for chemicals, but also increasingly certain types of products in the EU and in some related jurisdictions. So one of our main services is to provide registration services and authorization services to companies which need those registration and authorization to keep their products on the market. Safety data sheets and then we provide a range of legal and regulatory consulting services, especially to more like industry associations, but also companies. And we focus mainly on EU reach, but we also increasingly extend beyond that. And ESPR is a good example of that. Also in terms of sectors which we support, we are not strictly limited to the chemicals industry, but it goes much beyond that. Also in the value chain of products, very much down to the end user industries and the article suppliers. One of my main specialties is the aerospace and defense sector. So you can find more information on our website, of course. So here you see an overview of where are we present on the globe and which main regulations are we tracking and where do we provide support. So you see we have offices apart from Finland, Helsinki, also in the UK, in India, in Turkey, and lately also South Korea. And we are also present in Brussels in Belgium. Yes, and I already mentioned it. We have this channel called Reach Law Talks, and there the webinar recordings and others are published for later study and use. So please feel free to subscribe to this channel to get the full set of information that we provide to our followers. Also good to know that we are not only available online, but also in many physical venues, including also now in the coming weeks and months. So here you find an overview, and I think the next one is Chem Expo in India. So we will be there in Mumbai, and yes, but I don't go more into the detail here. Okay, but let's move on to ESPR. And here I want to make an introductory note to clarify that this presentation is based on the ESPR provisional final text, which was agreed between the European Parliament and the Council on the 4th of December last year. So it may still be subject to some changes because it's not formally adopted yet. But you will, once this has happened, find the final text in the official journal of the European Union. And then from that point onwards, please refer to that final version. Good, so let's go into the matter. Introduction to ESPR. I think many of you are already somewhat familiar with the basics of ESPR. So this is a new regulation of the European Union, which will establish a framework for setting eco-design requirements for sustainable products. and it will replace the current Ecodesign directive, which is focusing on energy and energy-related products. So it will be a very wide scope regulation, the ESPR. So what is important to keep in mind is that this will be initially mainly a framework regulation, so which establishes a framework for setting eco-design requirements that products placed on the EU market have to comply with. And here ESPR addresses the environmental sustainability, so no social aspects for the moment. And the ambition is to make sustainable products the norm and to reduce the overall environmental and carbon footprint throughout the life cycle of those products. And of course, to ensure the free movement within the internal market by having this regulation. In addition, there are provisions famously on the digital product passport, then also mandatory green public procurement requirements, and finally also a framework to prevent unsold consumer products from being destroyed. So that will be initially put in place for some textile products. But those two topics I will not discuss today in more detail. We do not have time for that. So given that this is a framework regulation, the details for specific products will need to be specified in European Commission delegated acts, and they will be developed according to a work plan, like a 3-year work plan where the Commission is setting out in which order to work on product-specific requirements, but maybe also horizontal requirements. Important to note is, of course, that ESPR will affect products both manufactured inside EU, but also those products imported from outside the EU. There are only some limited exclusions from the scope of ESPR. So in principle, you can assume that any physical product which is placed on the EU market is potentially in the scope of ESPR, unless you have this one of the specified scope exclusions in the I think Article 1 of the ESPR. Yes, and as already mentioned, social aspects are presently out of the ESPR, so we are focusing on environmental sustainability aspects. And also second-hand products do not need to comply. This also is basically based on the fact that the obligation is linked to the first making available on the EU market, so the first placing on the market. So, of course, being such a broad regulation, such a broad new regulation, the question arises, what is the relationship with other key EU laws on sustainability aspects? And here I can only give you a little focus on some aspects, and here in particular, also given our work on chemical safety, the relationship with REACH and CLP. So as far as chemical safety is concerned, REACH and CLP will still drive the regulation. And for other product aspects which govern the environmental sustainability, then indeed the ESPR may become relevant. And for the social sustainability aspect, the Commission should evaluate as part of the ESPR the inclusion of social aspects after 4 years after entry into force. At the same time, we have some directives on corporate sustainability, which are governing both environmental and social sustainability aspects. So we have the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, and the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. These are already in place. And then we have also the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, which has been provisionally agreed, but is still a little bit in trouble currently to be adopted in the co-legislative process. But maybe this is still going to happen in the weeks to come. Okay, so there is definitely, as usually for regulatory requirements, a lot to digest, a lot of information to digest, and more to come. We have now the ESPR draft final text of 218 pages available publicly. And of course, the underlying Commission proposal and impact assessments for ESPR of 30 March 2022. And yeah, what is to come? We are waiting for the adopted and published ESPR text still. There will be consultations and impact assessments to develop all those delegated and implementing acts. And yeah, and for the duty holders, it will also mean some documentation, which will be reflected in conformity assessments, technical documentation, and of course then the digital product passport once it is in place, and also labeling requirements. Okay, so looking at the process leading to the ESPR regulation, I already mentioned the Commission proposal from March 22. Then we had this provisional agreement by the European Parliament and the Council, leading to this ESPR final text of last December the 4th. Then subsequently, quite quickly, there were approvals by COREPER on the 22nd of December, and in the beginning of January, also the European Parliament ENVI committee provided its approval vote on the provisional agreement. So it seems like a smooth process now, and now as we talk, the European Parliament has a sitting in plenary and is expected this week, if not today, if not already, to vote on the ESPR regulation. And after the European Parliament vote, then we also expect the final Council agreement next month in May. Okay, Ecodesign requirements, what are they? So first we have to look what are the product aspects which can potentially be regulated under ESPR. And here we have like 16 product aspects now in the ESPR final text. And I have sorted them a little bit according to some categories which I believe are suitable, but they are not like this written in the legal text. So one part of the product aspects is related to the lifetime and ensuring the longer lifetime of products, like durability, reliability, reusability, and so on. Then we have product aspects which are dealing with the composition of the product. Yeah? So for example, relating to the presence of so-called substances of concern, and also recycled content, so requirements in relation to recycled content in products. Then a third set of requirement is dealing with resource use. So already known from the Ecodesign directive is the energy use and energy efficiency aspect. And then we also have now still added to the final text water use and water efficiency, and then the general resource use and resource efficiency. Then we have some aspects relating to circularity. Yeah, so for example, the possibility to recycle a product, or the possibility also to recover certain materials may be regulated. And last but not least, we have the footprint element. So you can also regulate through eco-design requirements environmental impacts in order to map, reflect or limit the carbon and environmental footprint, and also the expected generation of waste. So those 16 product aspects can be regulated, and of course, one aspect or certain aspects are more important for one product group than for others. So it's a little bit like a pick list, which can be used then by the Commission when they define eco-design requirements for certain products. Okay, what are now for eco-design requirements the criteria, and what is the process leading to their adoption? In the ESPR text, there is a number of negative criteria. So basically, some things eco-design requirements should not be against. For example, eco-design requirements should not have any significant negative impact on the functionality of the product. So I think it's pretty much a no-brainer, but it's good that this is being clarified, and also some other adverse effects should be avoided. Of course, like health and safety, or affordability for consumers should be kept in mind, and things like that. So it's like a list of pretty obvious negative criteria, which are nevertheless good to keep in mind and reflect in the legal text. And then for the process leading to eco-design requirements, we have some generic steps. So everything starts with a work program where the Commission sets out these are the products we want to work on for the next 3 years. Then there are usually preparatory studies and impact assessment for the prioritized products. And in the next step, then these will be discussed in the so-called Ecodesign Forum, which includes various stakeholders, including also from industry, NGOs, and so on. And this Ecodesign Forum now also has a member states authority expert group, which is also like a separate part under this new Ecodesign forum to hold some confidential discussions also relating to the implementation of ESPR and the adoption of eco-design measures. So in all this process then eventually leads to the adoption of eco-design measures. And once adopted, then they would enter into force after a minimum period of 18 months to give, of course, industry also some time to implement those measures. But industry can see those measures coming because the process is foreseen to be fairly transparent, and stakeholders, including industry, are able to provide their input. So this is partly already ongoing for like examples like mainly textile products at this point, where the preparatory study is already ongoing with view to eco-design measures. So please keep that in mind, that stakeholder input is very important here already in the lead to the setting of eco-design requirements. Okay, but what are the different types of eco-design requirements? We have two types. One is a performance requirement, and the other type is information requirements. And here again, we have two different forms for each. We have product-specific requirements, which would apply per product group, and maybe further specified for specific products in that group. And on the other hand, we have horizontal requirements. And those horizontal requirements may cover several product groups which have sufficient technical commonalities. Yeah, so, and this is still quite an open question to what extent the Commission may want to use these horizontal requirements to regulate under ESPR across different product groups. Of course, another question is also what are considered to be sufficient technical commonalities. But yeah, other than that, so for the performance requirements, these can take the form of quantitative requirements like thresholds, for example, minimum recycled content. They can also be non-quantitative. For example, they can take the form of a restriction of substances which are inhibiting circularity. And on the other hand, we have the information requirements, and these will include at least requirements on the digital product passport for regulated products, and also requirements governing substances of concern and information to be transmitted for those. And beyond that, there can be also additional information as deemed appropriate concerning the product, its handling, and recycling. And I should also highlight that the elements of digital product passport and substances of concern, they do not necessarily need to be in place for information requirements which are part of horizontal requirements. Okay, then the next question, which triggers a lot of interest, is what is the definition of substances of concern under ESPR? And here we have the definition in Article 2, paragraph 28 of ESPR. There are three types or three subgroups of substances of concern. The first one is what we know from REACH, the REACH candidate list substances of very high concern. And then what expands the scope of substances of concern so much is the second category, which are substances with a harmonized classification in Annex 6 of the CIRP regulation for a number of different hazard classes, which are here given on the slide. So both human health hazards and environmental hazards. And comparing to the Commission proposal now in the provisional agreement, the only category which has been added are substances regulated under the persistent organic pollutants regulation. So these are now also potential substances of concern. And then we have letter C. The third subgroup is substances that negatively affect the reuse and recycling of materials in the product in which they are present. And what are these substances? We don't know. This needs to be pretty much determined by the Commission when they define the eco-design requirements as part of the eco-design measure. So this is the generic definition of substances of concern, but to a little bit add to the confusion, now there can be different scopes of substances of concern and different requirements. First of all, so on the side of the information requirements, we have minimum information elements which should be set for substances of concern. So like the name, the location, concentration, instructions for safe use, and so on. So this is, these are areas which are already partly known from the communication which we know under REACH, Article 33, and also SCIP for the SCIP database. And in addition, there is the possibility, quite a lot of flexibility to set thresholds on the concentration of substances, set different application deadlines, and also provide exemptions from the tracking requirement in the delegated act. The only thing which can be understood from the draft legal text is that candidate list substances above 0.1% should not be exempted from the information requirement. But the key thing to understand here is really that the reportable list of substances of concern under ESPR for a given product may differ from one product group to the other. And on the other hand, we will have performance requirements for substances of concern, and these can then take mainly the form of ESPR-based restrictions, so that certain substances should not be used anymore in products. And here the reason should mainly relate to the improvement of the environmental sustainability and not relate primarily to chemical safety, because this should be regulated or continue to be regulated under REACH. And those performance requirements for substances may address their presence in products, but also may address the production process. So we have those two sets of requirements that may be set for substances of concern. And then I can continue with the digital product passport. So the digital product passport is basically the new system under ESPR, or mainly under ESPR for the electronic sharing of information on environmental sustainability, in order to promote the idea of the circular economy, and also the idea of a digital economy. So this digital product passport in the future, it will relate to a specific, to a physical product, and the access to the information will be enabled through a data carrier and a corresponding unique identifier. So here I still like to show the nice illustration which was once provided by the European Commission on this the operating logic of the digital product passport. So there are still many open questions as regards this passport, and I can only answer very few today, to be honest, because main questions are still to be identified and to be regulated in future acts by the Commission. This concerns, for example, the granularity of the information that you have to include in the passport. It may be, the information may be required at the item level, the batch level, or the product model level. So this is still to be determined for each product which is being addressed. Also, the question which information will be actually mandatory in the DPP is also something that has to be specified in the product delegated acts in the future. And also the important question of access rights. So which stakeholders will have access to which type or which level of information about the product. This is also to be addressed in the future. And here we will have a division in the future between public data about the product and restricted data, which with very limited or no accessibility. Now, what was still added in the agreement by the co-legislators comparing to the Commission proposal was, first of all, the so-called web portal for digital product passports. So this comes next to the DPP registry, which is already foreseen in the Commission proposal, and the web portal will basically be then as I understand, a channel for stakeholders to access publicly available information about the products for which DPPs are required and available. And also what has been added by the co-legislators is the role of a so-called certified independent third-party DPP service provider, who would, so like a service provider who would store, for example, a backup copy of the DPP. which may be, for example, then useful in case the economic operator is going out of business. So, and we should also keep in mind that the DPP is not only relevant for the Ecodesign for sustainable products regulation, but also many other pieces of EU legislation are relying on the DPP, like the batteries regulation, and then some others which are mentioned here. So therefore, this is really a big undertaking also for the Commission to put in place like generic requirements, systemic requirements for digital product passport. But keep in mind that many aspects will then later on also be product specific, especially as regards the information requirements. Now, what is the relationship with existing mandatory reporting obligations? So you're looking especially at CLP and REACH here. So as most of you will know, we have under CLP the hazard-driven labels for substances and mixtures. We also have under REACH the safety data sheet, which is more looking not only at the hazards but also at the uses, so to ensure the safe use of chemicals. And then for articles and complex objects supplied, we have on the one hand the Article 33 communication. There's a distinction between whether you supply the article to consumers or to economic operators. And so this is REACH and CLP, and then we have since 2018 or a few years later, taking into account the implementation, also the SCIP database, which is a bit as an obligation linked to Article 33 of REACH. And so that's also a requirement which is now existing in place to be complied with by article suppliers. And it will not go away anytime soon, at least not because of the ESPR. So now the DPP can be considered for the time being as a complementary tool to be introduced for regulated products subject to delegated acts, and which will then set out specific information requirements, including also for substances of concern. In relation now, for example, to SCIP, ESPR highlights that when feasible, the Commission should link the product passport to existing union databases, and here SCIP is mentioned as an example. So some kind of interaction is should be explored if possible, but it's not sure today how that would work. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and still there is some time. So the next section on duty holders and enforcement. So basically, duty holders under ESPR are, in broad terms, economic operators. And here on the slide, you can see who are the different economic operators in relation to a product. Of course, everything starts with the product manufacturer, and the product manufacturer is in fact the principal duty holder under ESPR. He may be supported by an EU authorized representative if he decides to appoint one, but this representative will only have a limited mandate in relation to specific tasks. Importers will have an important role, of course, to ensure the product compliance before placing products from outside EU to the EU market. And then further down the supply chain, we have the distributors and dealers. And also keep in mind that that importers and distributors are treated like manufacturers in certain cases. and then they have the full range of obligations, and this applies in particular if they place the product on the market under their name or trademark, or in case of compliance relevant product modifications. So keep in mind the manufacturer definition is a very wide definition. It is not even limited only to EU companies. So it means any national or legal person who manufactures a product and markets that product under its name or trademark. So the manufacturer is only a person who also markets the product. Then next is the question of enforcement. How will it look like and who will be in charge? And also here, the ESPR regulation has put quite a lot of attention to see how this can be organized and effective. So for the applicable provisions, reference is first of all made to the EU markets surveillance regulation. And the ESPR provisions complement the market surveillance regulation. Article 68 of ESPR sets out that penalties should be foreseen in case of non-compliance, and also fines to ensure the proper following of the rules. In terms of key authorities relation to enforcement, we have market surveillance authorities, then the customs authorities, so in charge of checking when it comes to import of products. Then the administrative cooperation group will have a role, and the European Commission also as a key coordinator in that whole framework. Additional enforcement tools will be the Commission, the Digital Product Passport Registry under Article 12. And then also an interesting provision has been added on private enforcement. So actually it says now in the draft final text that the consumers have a right to claim compensation for non-compliance damage from the product manufacturer, importer, or authorized representative, or also the fulfillment service provider. So that's like a consumer right to get a financial compensation if the product is not ESPR compliant. Okay, but let's look now at the status of the European Commission preparatory work for priority products and DPP. So already since the beginning of 2023, the Commission, and here more specifically its Joint Research Center, has looked at all the products and has come up with a short list of 19 product groups. All this information has been published in a draft report from January 2023. So I cannot go very much into the product specific detail, unfortunately, but just one point here, if you see that there is one product is named like chemicals, for example, then you have to check further what is the actual scope of this product group. So for example, chemicals doesn't mean all chemicals, but only certain chemicals which are assessed and deemed to have a certain special impact on environmental sustainability and should therefore be regulated as a priority. So those 19 shortlisted product groups, and then they have been assessed by the Joint Research Center for basically for their environmental impact as it is seen at the moment, and some scoring has been derived. And and as a result, this shortlist is further shortened in order to come up with the priority products which would be tackled now as part of the first ESPR working plan for the next 3 years. So you can see here that many of the products should be taken forward, but some also not, or at least not under ESPR. Okay, and here you can see an overview which I borrowed from the European Commission on the product groups that should now be prioritized, so which would form part of the first ESPR working plan. So it will be, some are intermediate products, and here a preparatory study has already started in relation to iron and steel. And then we have the groups of final products. And here the first priority of the Commission is currently textiles, certain textile products. So there's already some preparatory work ongoing for those two product groups. And if we look at the timeline now for the digital product passport, we shall recall that some development work for the DPP has been ongoing already now since 2022 as part of the so-called CIRPASS consortium. CIRPASS consortium will now enter a second phase starting in May. And then, of course, all the other steps will be triggered by the entry into force of the ESPR regulation. And then subsequently in 2025, the Commission will come up with or wants to come up with some acts on DPP governance to regulate all those aspects which I have introduced to you previously, like the web portal, the registry, certified service providers, and so on. And then Commission wants to further raise awareness on the digital product passport in 2026. And then we will see the first DPP on the market starting from February 2027 for batteries. But this is not under ESPR batteries. DPP is regulated under the new batteries regulation from last year. But for as far as ESPR is concerned, we will have the first DPP possibly for textiles and steel starting from the middle of 2027. Yeah, and from there onwards, the schedule and the timeline is pretty much undefined still. So you see there's only some general information given here. We have received many questions what happens with electronics, because electronics are also addressed in the CIRPASS consortium. In one report from CIRPASS, we read that it is proposed that the DPP will be introduced in this sector by 2030. But yeah, we have also heard other voices which says that it's not planned for now to have the DPP for electronics, but I think we should, we just have to wait and see what is the Commission doing on those topics, because I mean, of course, in general, the scope of the ESPR also does not exclude electronics. And here I would like to refer you to an upcoming webinar by the European Commission, deep dive webinar on DPP state of play and work ahead on the 11th of June. I think registration is not yet possible, at least not when I checked the ESPR website of the Commission last week, but this should be available soon. So if you are interested, you should definitely follow this webinar from the primary source in charge of it. Okay, but then I think time, yes, 10 to have to conclude. Outlook on the next steps. Yes, we are basically now waiting for ESPR to be adopted. And if things go as planned, then we will have the ESPR in the official journal. If not by next month, then by June this year. And then it will enter into force very soon afterwards, so in June, July this summer. Then the next major step would be for the Commission to establish this Ecodesign forum, which this multi-stakeholder forum, which will then help the Commission to define the Ecodesign measures and also to finalize the work plan, the first ESPR work plan. So that is one of the first actions. There will also be the first meeting of the Ecodesign forum later this year. And then at the beginning of next year, we expect the adoption of the first ESPR working plan. And yeah, and then some time will pass until the first requirements are adopted. So for the first ESPR delegated act, we are currently looking at somewhere between end of 25 and beginning of 2026 for the first delegated act for textiles or certain textiles and steel. And then yeah, adding the 8 months minimum period for the implementation, then the requirements would become applicable towards the mid of 2027. Yeah, so how can companies, how can you prepare for ESPR? So you have seen this is basically a framework regulation. It's a wide scope, so a lot of things are still unclear, but you can still and you should familiarize yourself with those new requirements, and not only limited to ESPR, but also look at some other related sustainability requirements. And then you may want to assess what is the possible impact from those from this framework, from those Commission activities for your business, and what is your potential role, or what are your roles under ESPR in terms of economic operator. Of course, you may also want to discuss within your company and also in your supply value chain on ESPR and broader sustainability aspects. So there's so much activity at the moment. It's important to clarify certain points and be aware what is going on at the Commission level. You have also seen that the definition of eco-design requirements relies very much on stakeholder input. So if you can, you are invited to participate as a stakeholder for the preparation of those requirements, and also for the preparation of the digital product passport, for example, as part of the CIRPASS consortium. Only for the textile sector, there will be additional obligations to get prepared for the provisions to prevent the need to destroy unsold consumer products. So that is something that textile companies should look into more carefully. Yeah, but other than that, I think also sector associations will have a major role to play to educate their members, and also to, of course, bring forward their positions and expertise towards the European Commission. In terms of services which REACH law can provide, so we are increasingly looking to support companies on sustainability aspects. So not only on ESPR, but also, for example, CBAM, so the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. We are also looking into other EU sustainability requirements. So as you can see here from the table, so in terms of ESPR, we can help with stakeholder consultations towards the Commission, for example. We can help you assess the impact from ESPR on your product scope. We can also help do training and awareness raising sessions for industry associations and for upstream suppliers, and so on. So things are possible, and maybe as a thought starter, we have developed an offering to help you get started. This is mainly useful for sectorial industry associations and companies with complex product portfolios. So here we are envisaging like a stepwise support to associations and big companies, which involves a workshop, development of an action plan, and then based on the action plan, implementation and individual support of the association and their members or larger company groups. So we can definitely provide some support on that on those aspects. And yes, so if you're interested in a proposal, please contact us. And with this, I'm done with my presentation. It's already 5 to 3 finish time, but I will now have a look at the questions received and see if there is something that I may not yet have answered as part of the presentation, which is well possible. So please, I will take a short break and be back with you in 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so I'm back. I have reviewed the questions which you have submitted in the chat. So I go through question by question as far as I can answer. First question: are products which are solely manufactured for and used by industrial and professional users in scope of the ESPR? So yes, indeed, in general, there is no distinction whether we have a consumer product or business to business product. So yeah, so it then really depends also on the definition and on the delegated acts by the Commission, which products will be regulated more precisely. Then the question, could you please advise where we can find the latest draft text? And yes, I think it has been linked several times in the presentation. It is available on the website of the Council of the European Union in a news release from last December. And yeah, so it's part of the presentation. Next question, could you please elaborate on the applicability to automotive components? And yes, this is a good question, and because like a limited scope exclusion has been introduced here in the draft final text in relation to motor vehicles, I think. And so you are, I would advise you to check out the draft final text and look for vehicles, and there you will find the wording more precisely, both in the article part and also in the recitals dealing with vehicles. Then the next question, how does the concept of substances of concern compare to the concept of SVHCs in the REACH regulation? It is my understanding that these are different. Yeah, well, as I have explained as part of my presentation, substances of very high concern, at least those included in the REACH candidate list, are one subgroup of the substances of concern definition. And in addition, there are also further groups which can fulfill the substance of concern definition, as I have explained. What I do understand is that that the mere fulfillment of the SVHC definition does not make a substance of concern. So it has to be also included in the candidate list, because that was a discussion point for the European Parliament. They actually wanted to have all SVHCs, regardless of candidate list inclusion, in the substance of concern definition, but it has not made it to the final provisional agreement. Yeah, some critical comments in relation to skip, whether the same mistakes with skip could be repeated for substances of concern and information. Well, let's hope that not. I mean, at least in this case, the Commission will be able to really work on product-specific requirements, and then the information on substances of concern should be transmitted and relate specifically to the product that is supplied. So. But there will surely be also challenges with the information transmission down to the waste treatment operators for substances of concern. So it's a complex matter. Next question, also relating to skip. Is there a plan to abolish skip reporting if we have the digital product passport? Well, the answer is until further notice, there will not, the digital product passport will not cannot replace skip. Also, simply because the DPP will only be introduced for regulated products, so the scope will be much more narrow. And skip, as it stands, applies to all articles placed on the market in the EU which contain a candidate list substance above 0.1%. And then another question, whether the DPP will be mandatory for substances, mixtures, and articles. Well, I can only repeat that the DPP will be mandatory for regulated products, and the products which are being regulated, you can find them then from the work plan of the Commission in the future, and then from the evolving Ecodesign requirements. So then you will see, but by definition, I think that's important to understand. It is indeed possible that also objects which fulfill the definition of chemicals or substances or mixtures, also those are considered as products and may be regulated under ESPR. So not only final products and not only articles as we know them from REACH. Okay, and I think with this I should conclude. I'm already a few minutes late. I would invite you, if you believe that I have not answered your question sufficiently, to drop me or drop REACH Law an email. And of course, if you require any further support from us in this matter, please feel free to reach out to us to ask for more information, maybe for an information session, and then we'll see what we can do more precisely. So I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and so let's see when ESPR is now finally going to be adopted and how the implementation will be going. So thanks a lot, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.